Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope you are having a fantastic Tuesday, wherever you may be across this great country or this great land. We got a lot to dive into, and I hope you guys are ready to get smarter, to learn more, and to continue to battle and combat the Corona Bros out there. Right off the top, want to encourage you, if you love Outkick, like I know many of you do, go sign up for Outkick VIP today. We have had an unbelievable month of July. I want to finish with a flurry. Go sign up today. You get access to our message board, private Zooms for members only, the ability to post comments on all of our articles, VIP phone line. If you listen to the radio show, people have been calling in, and more. It is an outstanding value. You will be glad that you did it. Why not sign up today? All right, let's dive into a bunch of different stories. Let's start with the coronavirus. The coronavirus appears to have peaked in Florida and in Texas. Every day, more data comes out that suggests hospitalizations are going down, and further evidence of the disaster that was New York. There have yet to be 200 deaths in a day in the state of Florida. New York had 45 days straight of 200 plus deaths under St. Cuomo, who is the most overhyped and worst governor in the 21st century, and maybe the most overhyped and worst politician in America in the 21st century. The fact that the media won't call him on this is crazy. Let me repeat, 45 straight days, over 200 deaths in New York State. Florida still hasn't had a single 200 death day. That's pretty wild just to think about when you consider that Florida now has had basically the same number of confirmed cases as New York. Andrew Cuomo, unmitigated disaster. Past 4 days, if you're paying attention to the data, probably aren't hearing this from any of the Corona Bro media. We have had less deaths in Florida in the past 4 days than we had on the same 4 days before. And those are the same days of the week, so the numbers continue to decline. All right. This is, I believe, further evidence of a complete and total media failure. Should be the number one story in all of the nation. Instead, all of the fear has been spreading based on what's going on in Texas and in Florida. Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis have dunked all over Andrew Cuomo of New York, New Jersey's governor, Murphy. The disaster that was Pennsylvania, Michigan, Illinois, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, they all followed Andrew Cuomo's lead. If they just hadn't done that, the death rate would be basically the same as the flu, and it's just unbelievable to me if they didn't manage to do that. So total failure in the Northeast based on buying into the expert forecast, based on believing in the worst case scenarios, based on buying into the fear porn, based on allowing the media to direct you. There should be full on shame from anybody who has covered Andrew Cuomo and claimed that he did a good job. All right, let's go into the Marlins. This is an easy decision, okay? I know that everybody out there in the sports media immediately panicked, but the second that this story came out, I said, look, go ahead and stop the Marlins from playing, allow them to come back and play in a week or so, and play double headers to make up the games that they lost. This is not complicated. This is really an easy solution. I thought Rob Manfred did a good job last night in his Major League Baseball Network interview. I watched the whole thing. He said there was no talk about shutting down the league despite what all the Corona Bros wanted out there. This is to be expected. Look at what happened in the MLS. They had to pull 2 teams before they could even start their season. Look at all the positive tests that the NBA has had. Look at all the positive tests that the NHL has had. Rob Manfred said straight up, 99.6% of our tests have been negative. 0.4% have been positive. if there are things you can learn about how the Marlins ended up getting infected, that is worth doing because it can lead to better practices going forward. But you have to anticipate this happening. What I think Major League Baseball should do, honestly, is consider adding an extra week to the season, at least potentially, to potentially play any games that need to be made up. Honestly, the Marlins stink. It's unlikely that their games are really going to matter. You may never even need to make these games up, but you could easily do a doubleheader if necessary. Reports are the Marlins are going to be back in circulation come Monday. And so if I had set odds on which MLB team was going to screw this all up, I think a huge percentage of you would have bet on it being the Marlins. I think a lot of you out there would have said, you know what, this is the team that will screw it all up. And what I think is important here is one of the challenges in life, and you're going to start to see this if you're young and you're listening to this. There are two different types of people. There are people who try to create things, and there are people who try to destroy things, okay? It seems to me that social media is primarily concerned with destroying things, tearing down the existence of something, as opposed to building something new up. And I would consider and argue that you can also analogize the way people think as either thinking like employees or thinking like owners. Owners try to build things. Owners want to have stability. They want to create something larger. Employees always are concerned with smaller issues, right? And if you think about the ownership society versus the employee society, if you think like an employee, you will pretty much always be an employee. Most people think like employees. They want to get the paycheck. They want to know that they've got security. They don't want to build or take risk in order to get something new. That's how most people think. And most people on social media, as a result, are trying to tear down as opposed to construct. And so what I would say in general is, I've been disappointed by the sports media because there's been very little goal to construct. Let me give you an example. And it's not just about having money or not having money. I'm going to use as an example Dana White. Dana White could have easily said, screw it, I make a ton of money. There's no need for me to worry about trying to get the UFC back. I can go shelter in place at my massive mansion in Las Vegas. I've got hundreds of millions of dollars. Why take on the stress of Fight Island? Why try to fight on an Indian reservation? Why try to get all the details set up so we could have fighting? Same thing with Vince McMahon. But people who create value, people who build, they seek to find a way. America is about finding a way. We have in our DNA an incredible amount of risk-taking because it would have been easy wherever you were if you had the choice not to decide to go to America. When you were in Ireland amid the potato famine, you could have said, why in the world would I get on that ship and go all the way across the ocean and risk something new when I'm here and everything that I know is here, right? Why in the world would you make the decision to leave behind India or Asia or Africa or anywhere else where immigrants are coming on a regular basis to this country? It's because we are the land of figuring out how to do things. We are about creating something new, not forever relying upon what others before us had done. It's why Silicon Valley exists. It's why Google happened here. It's why Amazon happened here. It's why Apple happened here. Because we have a unique entrepreneurial spirit, okay? I think it's important for our sports leagues to embrace that version of Americana. And it's not really a surprise to me, even though it's disappointing, that so many in sports media have seen the challenges and said, oh my God, there's no way we can ever play. It's not safe. Going on the Oregon Trail was not safe. Deciding to come to America was not safe. Fighting the British was not safe. Fighting the Nazis was not safe. American history is not filled with safety. One day when we go to Mars, it will not be safe. Going to the moon was not safe. I am terribly troubled by what I see as an overwhelming amount of safetyism that exists in this country, a belief that no risk is worth taking if there is any danger associated with it at all. That is what I see characterizing so much of what goes on social media and so much of what our response to the coronavirus has been filled with. Terror, fear, and unwillingness to accept any risk whatsoever. This is, I believe, what is unfortunately being characterized by the Corona Bros and by sports media in general. I asked you guys, 50,000 of you have voted now, 50,000 plus. Do you believe many members of the sports media are rooting against sports coming back? 77% of you said yes. Why is that? Because you tell on yourself over time, even if you argue it's not what you're doing. If you are constantly in sports media and you are sharing stories that suggest that sports shouldn't occur and never any positive stories about why sports should occur, that is not balanced. That is you making the decision to try and pretend that you aren't doing what you are, which is trying to tear down the idea of sports being played. We saw it already the minute the Marlins tested positive. It didn't matter that 99.6% of Major League Baseball tests are actually negative. It didn't matter at all that there was a huge number the same day of NHL and NBA and MLS tests that were also negative. It doesn't matter that the trend lines are all moving in the right direction. The sports media claims that they're calling balls and strikes, but they have a very slanted opinion, and they are, as a group, by what they share, collectively arguing that sports should not come back, and you guys see it. And you guys see it, over 50,000 of you voting against it. I think it's probably because there are a lot of far left-wing members of the media in sports. And they don't have anything else to write about, and so they're buying into the fear porn, and they're putting up obstacles for why sports should come back. And this circles back around to my point about thinking versus an owner and thinking versus an employee. Most sports media think as employees. What they don't realize is if they thought as owners, their jobs may not be there if sports don't happen. If the NFL doesn't play, tons of NFL writers and media members are losing their jobs. If college football doesn't play, tons of them are losing their jobs as well. They won't have jobs. So arguing against the schools trying to figure out ways to play, the owners trying to find ways to play, the associations trying to find ways to play, it's a fundamentally failed employee-based logic system that is fundamentally anti-everything America stands for and anti-everything about our ownership structure. It's also mob-based thinking. It's why so many coaches are nervous to come out and say anything. It's why commissioners are. They saw what happened to Mike Gundy when Mike Gundy said, yeah, hey, I hope we're going to be back in mid-May. It ended up being early June, but you would have thought Mike Gundy had said the most outlandish thing in the history of mankind. It's crazy. It's crazy that the fear of all of these blue checkmark brigade members lining up against you is so powerful. I got to tell you, yesterday, blue checkmarks were mad at me for saying sports should be played. I think I got all the way up to like the number 2 or 3 trending story in all of sports. Sorry, in all of Twitter. You know what I care? Nothing. My job is to share exactly what I think every day. but it speaks to how crazy the sports media has become that I was trending for saying, hey, we need to play sports. Imagine that. A guy who talks about sports, his outlandish opinion is the coronavirus is not that dangerous for young, healthy people, and we have to play sports. And that's such a rare opinion that I was one of the top trending subjects in all of America for having that opinion. It's absolutely crazy. It's good for us, though. Another great day for VIP signups. Appreciate everybody who climbed on board the Outkick Express. But what's the impact? Like, I don't care. Agree or disagree with me. It's not like it impacts my life. Somebody on the internet disagrees with me. That's your right. Have fun with it. End result, it's going to be good for me. 6 Patriots are sitting out for the season. Look, I don't have, and other players, other teams are doing the same thing, but 6 Patriots. To me, the first thing that jumps out about the 6 Patriots not playing is this a Bill Belichick scheme? So that he can get back in the draft, go draft Trevor Lawrence, everybody comes back and they're a lot better next year. But I definitely don't think that these 6 Patriots would have set out if Tom Brady was still playing. I think this is an indictment a little bit of where the Patriots think their team is. I think it's highly less likely that you will sit out if you think you have a chance to get a Super Bowl, right? I just think there's no doubt at all here. Which also factors in, you have the right not to play. Look, I'm not saying that everybody has to do what I'm going to do. Today, I'm going to finish this show. I'm going to go put on a button-down shirt. I'm going to do my sports gambling show. And then I'm going to go out to dinner with a buddy. All right? That's what I'm going to do. On Saturday, I went and played golf all day after I had a lot of fun writing in the morning. Went and played golf all day. Then I went out for drinks and dinner with friends. And I was out in Nashville all night. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm not saying you have to ever leave your house again. I'm not saying you have to do your job. But your decision not to do those things should not impact my ability to make decisions in my own life that I think are best for me and my family. If you don't want your kids to be in school, fine. Let them stay home and they can watch an iPad. And they can fall farther and farther behind my kids who I want to actually be in school, okay? If you make the decision to not do something, you shouldn't also simultaneously be stopping me from doing it. You understand the difference? I'm fine. If NFL players don't want to play, they shouldn't have to play. If college football players don't want to play, they shouldn't have to play. If NBA players or NHL players or Major League Baseball players, they should all have the right to make their own individual decision, but so should you and I. And when I look at the data, I am far more concerned about the 40 million people who are unemployed than I am the 4 million and the tiny scintilla of those people that have actually died or gotten the virus. That's my personal opinion. I'm willing to take that risk based on looking at the data. I've flown on airplanes. I spent the month of May down at the beach. I'm publicly out in restaurants. I'm living my life the same way that I'm telling you guys to live your lives. You make your choices. I'm just not saying one thing and doing another. This is not in any way difficult, okay? This is an easy solution that should be clearly apparent for everybody else out there. The football players are lucky. They're rich. They don't have to work. That's the American dream. Make so much money that you never have to work anymore. A huge number of you out there would love that. You know what? I kind of love what I'm doing so much. I think even if I had $100 million in the bank, I think I'd wake up and keep doing the exact same thing. And by the way, I think I'm going to have $100 million in the bank before long. And guess what? I'm going to wake up and be able to do the same exact thing that I've already done before. Okay? This is not an incredibly difficult situation. I am just telling you exactly what I believe. Mahomes has bought a piece of the Royals. All right? This to me is pretty fascinating. Patrick Mahomes has become, I believe, the NFL's version of Steph Curry back in the early days of Steph Curry. I don't know anybody who dislikes Patrick Mahomes. I should dislike him because my Titans are never going to get past a healthy Patrick Mahomes. But you know what? I like him. He's a very likable dude. I love how smart he was to buy a part of the Kansas City Royals. I'm sure it's a small part of the overall franchise. It's not like he put $200 million into it. But it's pretty cool to own a part of the baseball franchise in the city that you have branded as your own. I'm not from Kansas City, but Patrick Mahomes is on track by far to be the most beloved person in the history of professional sports in the state of Missouri and certainly in the city of Kansas City, right? And buying a piece of the Royals is a big part of that. And so props to him. He is making every right decision. I have zero criticism of him at all. He is doing everything right. I'm not going to lie. I'm jealous of Chiefs fans to have a quarterback like that already so young, having won a Super Bowl for your town. Now, I know Chiefs fans, there's a lot of misery. There's a lot of misery for being a Chiefs fan. I understand. You feel like you paid your dues, and finally Patrick Mahomes is your payoff. And I certainly understand it, but I find him to be a thoroughly likable guy. This story, I couldn't believe this story. So I'm old school. I read the New York Times and I read the Wall Street Journal, old print edition. Like I'll sit there and I flip through it. Friday's New York Times, I think it was. I'm scrolling through and on like page 20, there's a story about UFOs. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. You know it's 2020 when the New York Times is writing about UFOs and it's on like page 20. And I got there and I read it. And in that article, Senator Harry Reid, the former majority leader of the Senate, he's now retired, said not only does he know a lot about UFOs that hasn't been released yet, he said he believes that UFOs have crashed in the United States and that we've been trying to figure out what they're made of and we can't identify any of the materials. This is amazing. And I read it and I was like, how in the world is this not a front page story? I couldn't believe it. The government has already acknowledged that UFOs are real. But the fact that you have a politician who has held one of the highest offices in our land, Senate Majority Leader, and on page 20, he tells the New York Times that he thinks UFOs have crashed in America and we have examined their materials and we can't figure out what they're made of. And I was like, oh my God. Like, how is this not front page news? I don't even get it. But anyway, you should go read it. We pulled a little bit of the details at Outkick. It's up there as well. Finally, Ohio State. Ohio State has said that they expect now 10 to 20,000 fans to be present. I just think it's a good sign for college football. In general, everybody who's been trying to snuff out the flame of college football's existence, the trend lines for college football continue to get more positive. And that includes Oklahoma bumping up the start of their season, the Big 12. I think what's going to happen is the Big 12 and the SEC are going to play 12 games. I really do. And I think there's a good chance that the ACC plays 11 and preserves all the big rivalry games against the SEC. Clemson, South Carolina, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Louisville against Kentucky. I think all of those are going to happen. But 10 to 20%, I think, was basically the idea that Ohio State would have fans present. That's not bad. I have been from the start not one of these people who cares about fans. I enjoy watching televised sports just as much without fans as I do with fans. And so to me, as long as the games happen, I am happy. And I think this is a good sign overall that things continue to move in the direction of college football. All right. Not sure exactly what time it is, but I will be live on Lock It In, which is now called Fox Bet Live. And at some point, I will get the title of our new television show correct. I will be on live there at 4 Eastern, 3 Central, 2 Mountain, 1 o'clock Pacific. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. Go read the anonymous mailbag today. Go sign up for the Outkick VIP. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting Outkick. Kisses from me to all of you. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See you guys.